Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 31 of the Nurtured by Nature podcast. Today, I'm delighted to be joined in conversation by Lucy, the founder of the Medicine Woman Gathering and a musician based in East Devon in the UK. We are living in a time that is calling women to reconnect with themselves and the natural world, and come together through sisterhood, community and ceremony to re-establish the balance of reciprocity and communion with the land and each other. Having always felt a connection with the natural world and found inspiration from Mother Earth in her singing and songwriting, Lucy shares what inspired her to create a gathering that honours the idea that we are all medicine women. Based near Glastonbury, the gathering is a place where the ancient Celtic wisdom of the sacred land weaves with modern ideas and creates space for us to move into right relationship with the earth and honour our calling as her protectors. The Medicine Woman Gathering is now in its second year and will be held in July 2024, so there is still time for you to get involved. It is a place where women and children come together to witness each other and open a beautiful portal of energy for transformation. From the sharing of ancient skills to a concert by the voices of the wild feminine, this year's event will create a powerful container to honour the collective grief of our world and offer strength to the wild women to gently awaken and return to their roots, reconnected to their innate wisdom. Well, welcome, Lucy, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Nurtured by Nature podcast. It's really lovely to have you with us, and I'm excited to see where our conversation is going to go today. I'd like to just get started with all my guests by just asking them to share a little bit about their nature story, which is quite open and can be interpreted however you like, whether it's memories from childhood or more recent. So if you've got anything to get us started, that'd be lovely.
Oh, thank you so much, Fiona, for having me, and it's such a joy to be here with you. My nature story, probably my most fond nature story when I think of nature, is I grew up on a farm in East Devon.
Oh, beautiful.
And I had a horse called Dixie.
Oh, lovely.
And I was a very free living child, and I felt most at home when I was running around pretending I was also a horse, playing with my horses and really connecting with all of life. Like, I used to see, like, the birds would kind of show me the way to where I needed to go, and my horses were like my protectors, and my herd and my family. So yeah, I've always been really, really connected to nature, and I always look to nature whenever I need guidance or support with anything. Yeah, it's quite a special connection that I have to nature.
Yeah, I think it's lovely when you have that kind of security net, I suppose, isn't it? In childhood, it really helps with learning to cope with all the challenges that we face in life, and having that sort of constant, really, isn't it, to be able to go back to um, at any point that you need it. So I think it's your second year, isn't it? You've brought together this amazing community of people into your Medicine Woman Gathering, and it is your second year, isn't it, that you're running this?
Yes, so this we are very much in the planning stages. I say planning, but getting the second year together, ready for. So it's held at the end of July this year. We ran it at the end of June last year, but the weather was pretty wild.
Yeah.
Um, we were faced with lots of wind and rain, and so I've kind of moved it a little bit more into July to hope that the weather will be a bit more easeful
Yeah.
and kind to us. But yeah, it's really exciting. It's there's a lot that's happened already, and amazing facilitators and artists that are being booked already. And yeah, we're really expanding this year to kind of bring this fullness and co-creativity together so that we can really come together as a sisterhood and as women. It's what we do best, really.
Yeah. It's
So
become really important, hasn't it? I think for a lot of people trying to, I don't know if it was COVID really that sort of made us realize how isolated we'd become, and it sort of sparked in a lot of people. I know a lot of my guests like talk about the power of community and finding ways to come together in circle and ceremony. And I guess that's what's inspired you to start.
yes, yeah. I've been running women's retreats for, I kind of started just as I was finishing university in 2018. So just before COVID, I started running voice workshops and really connecting them with nature,
Yeah,
because I find that when I sing in nature, there's something that like completely expands tenfold, because you're being seen by everything and being witnessed by everything, and there's that dance of reciprocity that happens. And then yeah, I was living in Brighton at the time, and I really felt that sense of community and needing this place of solitude and retreat. And in I think it was 2018, I went to Woman Fest which I think was the first kind of women's gathering of a big scale that was happening. And I never really saw myself running an event like that, because I saw the sheer amount of work
yeah,
and yeah, dedication that it takes to really pull off something at such a huge scale.
yeah.
Um, and then last year, Melody, who was a part of Woman Fest, we were walking her land, which is where Medicine Woman was held last year. And she asked me if I wanted to create a gathering. And kind of what happened was she also found out she was pregnant at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So as it kind of went on, she kind of mentioned to me, I feel like I'm almost midwifing you to set up this gathering to kind of
Yeah,
take on and be that kind of that conduit for what
yeah,
wants to come through for Medicine Woman. And that's really how I see this gathering. I don't see it as mine, I see it as I am just the conduit. I listen to what is needed at this time for us as a collective, us as a sisterhood, and women coming together and connecting back to the land. And I think that that's what feels really special about it. It feels such a joy to really
yeah.
be organizing it, and it gives me so much life and energy. And I think that's, for me, that's really where the joy and the gift of sharing this is because it doesn't feel like work, even though it's really hard.
Oh, that's always important, isn't it? Especially like you said, I mean, here we are at the start of the year and you've got sort of 6 or 7 months ahead of you, and the workload is already like quite a lot. So it is a huge commitment from you to do this, and but so worthwhile in the ripples that you create, both for the people who attend and but also for the facilitators as well, giving them a platform to share their voices and their wisdom. It's based near Glastonbury, is that right? Is it still in the same location this year as last year?
Yes, I believe it will be. I just still need to confirm with the land just to make sure completely, but that was my intention. That was that I wanted to keep it on that land specifically. It felt that was where the vision came through for Medicine Woman, the name,
Yeah.
and as we were walking the land barefoot in the summer months a couple of years ago, and yeah, I really feel the connection of bringing the women to that land and having, so the land overlooks the Tor of Glastonbury. So the sacred fire is right in adjacent to the Tor, which is kind of like, I see it as kind of the masculine
Mm.
side, and then there's the hearth of the fire, which is, and when the women are around it, there's that kind of healing of the masculine and feminine lines
Oh, beautiful.
happening.
Yeah.
And of course the tour is on Bridget's mound, so like her body is laid across the land of Glastonbury, and that's how the mythology and the Celtic mythology of that is translated.
And that presumably is woven into everything around your event as well.
Yes, yeah. So we bring a lot of Celtic mythology, and really this year especially, I'm wanting to bring in more of the medicine of this land, so that the Celtic
Yeah.
ancient indigenous ways of these lands. And I feel really fortunate that I don't know if you've heard of Dory Joy.
No.
She's actually based near Glastonbury as well,
Okay.
and she's a really dear friend of mine, and she is the most amazing drum maker, and she's really holding the path of the ancient embroidery and the indigenous wisdoms of these lands. She's a really, I see her as like a sacred grandmother slash mother,
Beautiful.
and she's just we're really fortunate to have her as
Yeah.
part of Medicine Woman.
I think so often, like when we talk of indigenous wisdom, like we often imagine further afield, don't we? I don't know if it's just me, but that, we sort of indigenous cultures, we sort of think of like the Americas, perhaps South America, North America, even sort of Aborigines and things. We don't. It's strange that we don't really immediately think of the indigenous wisdom of our own land, but of course for the people living here, there's much stronger almost resonance, I guess, with that culture, with the land that they're familiar with, they've evolved alongside. And I think it's fantastic to hear quite a few of my guests, actually more and more, have been mentioning like the wisdom of the Celtic traditions that is there for us to help us, guide us. And I think a lot of what you've mentioned and I talk about is sort of, it's often words start with re, and it's like reawakening, remembering and reconnecting. It's just relearning, isn't it? Like going, it's not something new, but it's remembering all of this wisdom that's there already.
Yeah, totally. And I feel, that's a really important part of Medicine Woman's ethos. Is there's so many layers to it, but the main one is that we are all medicine women, whether it's in this lifetime or in an ancestral lifetime or down our lineage. And the moment we step foot on this earth, or we come down into this earth, we are born with this such innate wisdom and connection to everything around us, and to learn how to really connect with it in a way that opens our sphere to all of the dimensions, through time and space. It's like we can really come back into our truest sovereignty and our power as a child of this earth. As someone, from my own perspective, I really see that when I'm in true relationship, right relationship with this earth, the proto-Celtic, my Celtic wisdom, and the modern wisdom that's coming through today, because we can't also just deny that there is more coming through. um, when I really kind of sit in that right relationship, and I'm in service to this earth, to protecting her, to helping her to thrive, I then get so much back tenfold through that too. And the learning about, for example, I'm really into herbalism and, of course, singing. And those are my medicines that really support me to keep me within that right relationship with her, that root me down back into the wisdom that she is always,
Yeah.
always giving me whenever I need it.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, our modern society is it's just so busy, isn't it? There's so many demands on all of us, and um, I think that's, I mean, part of why I called the podcast Nurtured by Nature was it was this sort of duality of both nature can nurture us, but at the same time we can nurture nature as well, and Mother Earth, and it's this circular relationship rather than sort of linear one way or the other. And Yeah, I think it's lovely to hear that you've discovered the things that really feed your soul and make you feel alive, and how you can then from that place feed back to others through, which is what you're doing with your amazing gathering that you're bringing together. Do you want to talk about some of the other people that have been part of the journey, some of the facilitators maybe from last year? I know you're still applications open to confirm who is going to be attending as well. What a guest I had recently, Lucy from Wylde Island, she talked of elders, and I think that that's really sort of what you're saying, like these people who are stepping into that beautiful space of elder wisdom, and it's not necessarily related to age either. It's just having this beautiful elder wisdom that they can share with others.
Yeah, beautiful, amazing.
Yeah.
Um, we have last year we had an amazing woman called Atema Dolphin, who is a London-based. I see her as an elder. I think she's yeah, she's an elder. And she really held that space. So she opened and closed. We have an opening ceremony and a closing ceremony to really keep the container of Medicine Woman really held and protected. As when we open these portals, you know, it can be it's strong energy, and it's really important that it's held and protected. And she really holds that space. I really see her as this gatekeeper. Yeah, she really has that grandmother energy. And I don't know
Yeah,
if you've seen
beautiful.
the Medicine Woman Gathering After movie, but she's the one that kind of opens it, and she's got her
Yeah.
conch.
Yeah.
As she calls in the guides and the gatekeepers of Medicine Woman to really hold that
Oh, beautiful.
space.
Yeah, I will put your links in the podcast show notes so people can go to your website, because I believe the video is quite prominent on your website, so they should be able to see that and have a taste of what you guys got up to last year. But it is important, and I think that comes back to like the ceremony of it all as well, isn't it? Is really sort of having reverence for this the wisdom that is there, and approaching it in the right manner, and that's also important, I think, of these events, and the intentions behind it is really key. And that's what I love about what you're doing is you are just in service to not just the people but the land, and it's just beautiful woven tapestry that you're bringing together. Your base is music, so do you I'm assuming music is a theme that you like to bring in as well to the
Yeah.
event.
Yeah, so I guess without going into too much detail, but music has really been I guess my grounding point in life. And as I've dived deeper as well, music has been quite a prominent part of my ancestry as well. That and witches. Yeah, I mean, even if we go back to the first thing that we hear when we're in the womb, it's like everything is music. And the first thing we hear is our mother's heartbeat. So as we're growing to the heartbeat of our mother. And so bringing the aspect of music and music as medicine as well. Yeah, you know, music can be used in many different ways. It can be used to really drop us into our hearts. It can be used to evoke emotion that is within us. It can be used to help us connect deeper to ourselves, and it can be used to bring out the ecstaticness through dance as well, and celebration. And music is really this tapestry that is woven through all cultures,
Yeah.
that really connects us on a level that is beyond words, really.
It's a universal, isn't it? It's a universal language that we all speak. Like I really actually enjoy listening to songs in foreign languages, even if I don't like speak or understand the words. There's like there is some sort of level of understanding, isn't there, from the melodies and the like you said, the way it makes you feel is really important. Is any of your music inspired by your connection with nature?
Yes, so a lot of my music, and I haven't actually I don't think I've really shared this before, but it's just coming through, so I'm just going to flow with it. But a lot of my music is I'll start with a story or an emotion that's kind of happening or is just coming through as I'm kind of either sharing or downloading what's coming through. And then what happens is a lot of the kind of what is called a pre-chorus or a chorus, so like the where you'll usually find a line that will get stuck in your head, is usually the conversation of what I would call Mother Earth coming through.
Oh,
Um, yeah, I have a song called Made, and a lot of it is done in kind of like a third person, I think.
okay.
So a verse of that song is it kind of shares my love, let your tears fall, and it's kind of like this holding of a third kind of spirit coming through the song. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it's beautiful. I think it's just it is beautiful. I think sometimes that's the thing that we struggle with a lot is actually like language lets us down, doesn't it? It just,
Mhm.
and I think that's maybe the beauty of music as well is when you weave the words with the melodies, it allows us to expand language in a way that words alone don't really convey enough energy and emotion. Anyway, well, that's what I found anyway, is that it's quite often when we're talking about this sort of more subtlety and relationship with the earth, like our language just doesn't have have the enough to really convey what we feel and experience.
Yeah, and I really find that the gifts, when we can truly sit in the silence of receiving as well, especially after a song, and just allowing that the ripples of that song to really ripple out into ourselves. That for me is where the gifts really are. It's within those silent peaks. And I really find that with nature as well. It's like nature is always communicating and always singing, or the way the trees weave with the wind, or the birds sing, and it's so alive outside with music. And then every now and again you'll just get this like silence,
Yeah.
and it's within that that I really feel it's just like oh, wow,
The
yeah,
expansion. Yeah.
expansion happen.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful, Lucy, so much. I think we just I think that's the thing, isn't it? There's a wonderful book by I think it's Sharon Blackie. I think it's her Enchanted Life book, which is she's got some newer ones since then. But she talks about that about actually when we step out in nature, just like really being aware of what's around us, because I think quite often like people will be in nature but they're not actually experiencing it, are they? And that's what you're really sort of saying there, I think, is just to really like revel in everything, the whole experience, use all of your senses, and also just not be afraid of the stillness. And I think that's really become quite difficult for a lot of people to actually embrace. I think, since we've had social media and, scrolling and things, we don't give ourselves that opportunity to sit in those real silences, and I think if we're not used to it, can feel quite uncomfortable at first as well, can't it?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and
Yeah.
we're on such a what's like fast paced fast food culture now. Yeah, we're not allowing ourselves actually that space to digest everything, which is I think is where the yeah, this kind of dis-ease is coming in more and more as well, because we're not we're not giving ourselves that space to really listen and receive. We're just taking it in, and then it's just kind of getting stuck in ourselves, and then we're moving on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing without actually completing the cycle. Really, if we go back to nature in wintertime, we're primarily in that spaciousness of that, really just allowing it to just soften and melt away, so that then we can come back in bulk at springtime when the snowdrops come out, and then we can start flourishing those seeds again.
Yeah. I saw my first snowdrop at the weekend. I saw a sneaky little early
Oh,
one that just peeped up. So it is that it is a beautiful time of year. I think it can be quite hard in this country because we get a lot of rain, don't we? And grey days, and that can feel a little bit sort of depressing after a few weeks. But I think it is it is just a beautiful time of year that we've forgotten how to really sort of step into and enjoy the relationship that winter offers us as well. That sort of, snuggling down and taking things slower, which is really important for a balance, isn't it? And balance in life.
yeah, totally. I moved back to Dartmoor just over a year ago now, and my life has significantly changed since moving back here as well. I feel so much more connected to nature. And I remember when I moved back, I lived in Brighton for 7 years prior to that. And I moved back and I slept for about 3 weeks. Like my body just needed that digestion time
Yeah.
of just, yeah, really landing in this space.
Do you find that with who who attend your medicine gatherings, do you find that they find a big shift as well from their time with you? And because you said you run retreats as well.
I'm absolutely. I don't
Mm.
know if I can speak for them, but I guess the feedback that I received from last year was phenomenal. And actually, even myself running the event itself, during the closing ceremony, there's a really lovely woman called Debbie who I asked her to hold an anointing ceremony. So, as part of the closing ceremony, just before Atema closed the space, we got into pairs, and Debbie had made this amazing oil with frankincense and rose and all these
Beautiful.
amazing smells. And we each spent some time just with that woman, just, caressing, massaging her, putting the oil on her, and just sharing the words and the gifts that had come through from the weekend. And to see the probably one of the most heart expansive moments of my life in this space that had been created at the end of the gathering, to see all of the women, with tears of joy rolling down their face, and their hearts just bursting open, maybe to receive like that for the first time in their life, was just, it was incredible. And I think being around the fire and closing the space in that way really brought us back into that softness with the land. We were all sat on the ground, so we were probably receiving so much from the earth at the same time. And
Yeah.
I really felt the resonance of our hearth mother, our earth mother, coming through at that moment in time. Yeah.
Oh, it sounds beautiful. I've just got goosebumps at like, listening to you saying that, because I think it's something that you do talk about on your website as well, but that part of the power is actually witnessing each other, isn't it? And it's something that really is so important, but I think it's so really still so rare actually in culture, isn't it? In our culture, at least, um, it for people to be really seen and witnessed, and their story and their journey, and that's really part of the power of these circles, isn't it? Is having that moment where you're actually seen and where you see others as well. It's twofold, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that reciprocity. It all comes down to reciprocity again, which I learned from. I mean, I knew about it, but I learned it when I read Robin Wall Kimmerer's book, Braiding Sweetgrass. And ever since reading that, it's probably one of my favorite books, actually, and one that I live my life from. Those, from, she has a list of, I think it's 21 ways to take care of the ones who take care of you. And I just love it so much. Yeah, reciprocity has been, it's quite a big part of our ethos in Medicine Woman. And I really want to bring this more and more into the understanding that we are always in reciprocity with the land, with everything we do, from the words that we speak to how we walk this earth, to the food that we eat, to the rubbish that we give back. We're always in communion with the land, and with each other as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, if we're just always taking, then that will eventually come back. And yeah, when we really need something, then it's not going to happen, because it's like that
Yeah.
karmic cycle will just take care of itself.
I think that's really beautiful, Lucy. It's lovely to just sit and think on that for a moment of just how we can be part of that continual circle, really, isn't it? That's, it's always looping round, and what you feeds back to you, and just, and with everything, whether that's I mean, a lot of people, I think, who listen to my podcast are probably quite focused on nature, but actually it's your entire community, whether that's human or animal or plant, or the energies around you, just being really aware of how you're stepping through life, I think, and what your footsteps are leaving behind you as well. But yeah, I know you do approach everything with your thing, don't you? You're, even the catering side of it, you've taken a lot of care in looking at how you can do that in a way that's nurturing and nourishing to the participants, and as well as the earth, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And this year, one of our kind of sustainability ethoses is that we're not going to have any disposable, even if it's eco and it will compost down, like it's still creating waste, in my opinion. That's my opinion. So what we are going to do is, we usually ask the women to bring their cutlery and their plates and cups, but we will have reusable plates, cups, and cutlery for the women to buy if they want to then buy them. And I've been working with a really beautiful community in Kenya to create some really nice reusable cutlery, which
Fantastic.
should be sold at the gathering, which is amazing. So it feels really nice to give back to communities who are maybe less fortunate than we are as well, through this gathering.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's our responsibility to everyone, and we can just, it's not about being perfect, is it? But it's about making like, I'm sure this is your second year, and you've learned things from last year, and there's things that you're improving, and that will continue as you go forward, as you move forward as well. You'll each year take another step towards, the what you want to achieve. You can't necessarily start there. You have to you start somewhere, and that's the most important thing as well, is doing these things as well as you can at the time that you bring them into fruition.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I learned a lot from last year, and I'm sure I'll learn even more this year. And I think that's something that I'm really opening to as well, is like, yes, I'm a conduit to this, but I'm also not perfect. And I will do my utmost best to create a gathering that is really has the fullest intention and heart of what wants to come through as medicine woman, um, and always deliver my best. But yeah, there's always something that will just happen and will kind of go, and you're like, okay, how do we deal with this?
So, if anyone's listening to this and they're sort of thinking, is this for them? Do you want to talk a little bit more about what someone might expect, obviously in like the sort of time scale, how long the event is over, maybe a few of the sort of people or activities that might be available to them, and just share a little bit more about it, to sort of see if people can think, oh yeah, I'd love to do that. And obviously we'll put the links for them to go and learn more, but if you'd like to speak a little bit on that.
So, Medicine Woman is a 3-day gathering. So, we open our doors Thursday afternoon, and then we close our doors Monday morning, basically. So there will be activities from Thursday evening to the Sunday night. And we have a whole array of different talks, workshops, music, a children's area. So this is another really big part of Medicine Women, is that I want to create a village where women and children are both accepted into a women's space. And we have, to give you an example, we have the lovely Dory Joy, who'll be coming and sharing some workshops. We're still talking about what that might be, but it could be a drum making workshop. It could be, last year we made medicine bags. She gave a cedar blessing and talked about cedar, which is a beautiful tree that is abundant in our own nature. We have beautiful Atema, who is coming to share a cacao ceremony. We have amazing musicians. So something that I was a part of last year is called Voices of the Wild Feminine, which was a compilation album.
Oh, wow.
Which had Lua Maria and Isla Schaefer and Susie Rowe and all these amazing medicine musicians. So some of the women from that album, including myself, are going to be coming, and we're going to be giving a Voices of the Wild Feminine concert.
Oh, amazing. That sounds
As part
beautiful.
of it. Yeah. And what else do we have? We'll most likely have weaving and learning how to drop spin with wool. Gosh, there's so much. My really lovely friend Katie. So one thing we didn't have last year, but we're going to have this year, is have a grief space.
Okay.
Especially with everything that's happening in the world right now, it feels really, really important to have a grief altar.
Yeah.
And this can be a space where we can light a candle for anything that is needing needing
Morning.
a
Yeah.
candle for that grief. We're really moving through quite treacherous times at the moment in some ways. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
balance. On one hand, it's amazing what's happening in the world, and on the other hand, it's absolutely heartbreaking at the same time. So it feels really important to have that space.
Yeah, for people to process it, because there is just so much emotion and sadness in the world collectively, isn't there? Even if it's not touching you specifically, but you're feeling the collective energy. So that's beautiful that you're making space for people to honor that and bring light to it, I guess, as well, with lighting the candle. No,
Yeah,
it sounds absolutely magical, Lucy, and it'd be a magical setting as well in Glastonbury, like you touched on, with the lovely energy. And it's purely just for women and children?
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's for all women and children. All children under 5 can come, but then after 5 to stay with the integrity of a women's gathering, just girls after that, which kind of hurts my heart a little bit because I want it to be open to
Yeah.
all children. And I also need to feel into the safety of the women, and really keeping it within that integrity as the boys start to get a bit older and they start to want to explore things more. It's important that I'm just making sure that there's that safety net there for everyone.
It is important to honor what feels right, and can be of service to the community in the greatest possible way. So it sounds absolutely amazing. And at the moment, you've got space still for facilitators to apply up until is it the end of January?
Yeah,
You're
so applications close 31st of January. We've had a lot of interest already, which is amazing. But yes, if there's anyone out there that would like to support, even if you're not a facilitator or an artist, if you want to get involved volunteering,
okay.
if you have any experience in working in a children's space and you want to gift your time for an exchange of a ticket, then please go to our website and apply. There's all the different links there, so hopefully
And
it's.
then for attendees, have you got some early bird pricing tickets if people get organised now?
Early bird actually ended at the end of December, but I am
Okay.
feeling to. I'll tell you what I could do. How about we get a code together for anyone who listens to this podcast,
Oh,
um,
brilliant.
and I
Uh,
can send that to you.
Yeah, and we'll put that in the show notes for people so that if they find it through the podcast, they can book that. Would be amazing. Thank you,
Yeah, yeah.
Lucy.
Mhm.
Well, I think it seems like we're getting to the point of sort of wrapping up, but I don't know if you have anything just sort of sitting on your heart that you'd like to share with the community today, before we say our goodbyes.
I think the only thing that's really coming through is that, yeah, creating these gatherings and watching everyone come on land into the field, and then we create this, we almost become like this one vessel, even though there's that individuality, and to really witness that and to really hold that space for the women that come is probably one of the deepest joys and heartfelt connections that I've ever been able to experience in my life. And to really keep doing this and sharing this work is would be a joy. So yeah, if
Yeah.
you're thinking of coming, then I'd love to see you book your ticket and yeah, get involved.
Yeah, that sounds so beautiful, Lucy. I think it's really important, for people who are, you know, well, for people who are experienced but also not experienced in this, this sort of world, I suppose, for want of a better word, this community that's available, to find someone as lovely as yourself who has just this really beautiful, pure intention for holding space for people to weave their magic. I mean, I think commonly, we often talk of the tapestry, don't we, in terms of women's circles, and it's, this beautiful honoring of everyone is their own thread, but together we come together and we co-create this, just something that we almost can't imagine until we come together, isn't it? It's like when you see everyone bringing their threads and what colors they are and the wisdom that they share, and just this beautiful picture emerges from that. And so I would, yeah, encourage anyone who is feeling called to go and have a look at your website and see if they can make the time to come and join you, because it sounds like a very, very special place to be, both in terms of geographically and also with the community that you're bringing together to nurture everyone. Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time today, Lucy. It's been absolutely lovely talking to you, and hopefully maybe we can catch up again, perhaps after the event as well, and hear more about how this year's event went and unfolded. It would be lovely. Thanks, Lucy, so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to the Nurtured by Nature podcast. I truly hope this conversation has brought some hope and inspiration into your life. I would love to have these messages ripple out across the world. So if you can, please share this episode with your friends, leave a review on your favourite podcast player, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. I would love to hear from you, so please feel free to connect with me on the links provided in the podcast description. But most importantly, thank you so much for being a part of this journey with me. But don't forget to simply get out there and enjoy the natural world.